Welcome back to this new inspirational video. Today I wanted to go over the points Emmet Fox made concerning creating a prophecy for yourself. Do you think you can create one for yourself? Well, you can. That's all we want to share with you through this video. And once you start doing that, once you start understanding this, your life will never be the same ever again. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Now, Emmet said the following: "Thoughtless people sometimes say that our affirmations and meditations are foolish because we state what is not so. To claim that my body is well or being healed when it is not is only to tell a lie," said one distinguished man some years ago. This is to misunderstand the whole principle. We affirm the harmony that we seek in order to provide the subconscious with the blueprint of the work to be done. When you decide to build a house, you purchase a vacant piece of ground and then your architect prepares drawings of a complete house. Actually, of course, there is no such house on the lot today, but you would not think of saying that the architect was drawing a lie. He is drawing what is to be, in order that it may be. So, we build in thought the conditions that will later come into manifestation on the physical plane. To wait like Mr. Macabre for things to turn up is foolish, because you will probably die before they do so. What is your intelligence for if not to be used in building the kind of life that you want? Very primitive men in prehistoric times rejoiced when they found food growing anywhere, and then they waited, perhaps for years, until they happened to find another crop. Today we use our intelligence and plant in good time the actual crops that we want, and the amount that we consider necessary. We do not sit about hoping that wheat or barley may fortunately come up somewhere. If we did that, civilization would collapse. This is very important what he all shared, because this was the end of the paragraph for today's video. But he's talking about the fact that you can create your own destiny however you want it to turn out. That's a huge claim to make, isn't it? There's always going to be people who are going to say, is that really true? I don't really believe that is true because of all these other reasons that they observe in the physical world itself. But we want to get away from that. We want to just open up our minds and consider for ourselves, can I actually create my own destiny? Of course you can. Where do you start? Well, he already gave us the indication in the form of a blueprint. Now, another way of saying is that we need a clear idea of where we want to go. Now, this is very important. We keep repeating this point because it's the most important of all. If you don't know where you want to go, you can't go anywhere better than where you currently are, or you're going to go backwards and make things even worse for yourself. A blueprint of a house is a great example. Because after all, if you know what your dream is all about, having a blueprint for its manifestation and realization is very, very beneficial. However, a blueprint is saying a plan, having a plan on which you can act in order to realize your dream. But this plan shouldn't be created just randomly, where you just sort of jot down random ideas of, oh, let me do this, or let me do that, let me try this, let me try that, where you're going all over the place and not really progressing effectively towards your real dream. So an example for myself would be that I took a piece of paper and I wrote my purpose in life on that piece of paper, and from that purpose I put that in the middle of a piece of paper. If you can imagine this all for yourself right now. From that purpose I draw out lines, and at the end of all these lines I wrote activities on what I knew I should be involved in order to express this purpose in my life. And now I'm involved in those activities on a daily basis, or at least as consistent as possible, and I keep my mind open to do more and better activities concerning this purpose so that I can keep expressing what I want. So that is essentially a blueprint in my case. Now let's look at some other dreams that people have. They want to write a book. Well, what's the blueprint for writing a book? First of all, you gotta have some idea of what the genre of your book would be about. Is it going to be horror, romantic, etc.? It doesn't really matter. That's the choice of the writer. So once they have a genre, they want to start considering for themselves, even though it might be controversial or not that common to say it, but you want to consider for yourself, how big do I want this book to become? Because that will push your imagination in a direction to stay active in order to create and write a story. So if you're like, I'm just gonna wait and see, some people, when they start writing, they keep writing for years on end and there's never an end in sight. This is why I do suggest people to have some sort of idea on how big they want their book to become, so that they have at least one part on which they can focus their consciousness to make sure that part will manifest over time. And then you can always decide to expand upon it if that's what you feel, compelled to do. So then you're at least in the process of exercising or executing that blueprint that you've created for this book. So you have the idea, what is the genre? How big do I sort of want the book to be? And then, in the blueprint, you could write that you're gonna start working on it every day. You're gonna set aside maybe 1 or 2 hours a day, if that's the max you can set aside, some people do, to work on this book. You can put that all in your plan of action, which is ultimately your blueprint for the realization of becoming a writer, of finishing that first book. Now, if it is for a musician, what I did, and actually as writer, what I just described about writing is how I go about writing my own books in the past and how I would do it now. Now, if it comes down to making music, I remember for myself I spent a couple of hours, actually a lot of hours a day, on just learning about producing music through my PC, on music software, and learning about how everything worked through trial and error. But yet, as I was working on that, while making mistakes, while not being as effective yet in creating melodies, stuff like that, I felt on purpose. I knew this is what I wanted to do. So subconsciously or unconsciously, I had this blueprint of at least dedicating a certain amount of time to my work in order to express this desire and dream I saw inside my imagination. Again, the activities that you really want to zoom in on for yourself are the ones that are in harmony with your purpose in life. And so many people, they don't have a purpose in life, and therefore their activities are all over the place. But the more clear you become on what it is that you're specifically after, the easier it becomes to figure out what sort of things need to be done in order to make it happen for you. So you can go over all the elements of your dream and then write out the activities that need to be executed in order to express that same dream. Really think about that, because that is a technique to which you can use your own consciousness in order to improve your life. And many people stay stuck right then and there from the point of view, I don't know how to do it. You will become aware on how to do anything as long as you stay focused on it. Now, Emmet Fox in this example also talked about a house, and we can even build upon that. If you want to build a house, an architect needs to be very clear on the measurements for the house, on exactly what it's going to look like, what material is going to be used. All these little details the architect goes over in order to have the blueprint so that they can build the house just as they imagine it, just as they decided upon what it should look like, so that there's no errors or mistakes in measurements here and there that they figure out too late when they've already placed most of the building on the ground, so to speak, so that they get all these errors. They want to avoid that as much as possible. Now, another concept that I wanted to share with you, I had written in my book, The Miracle of Wanting, and that is that achieving a dream is like building a movie, or at least the process through which crew and cast go in order to create a movie. They create a clear vision of the story that they want to portray on screen, and then the actors do their job of executing the roles of the characters, and the crew does their job in order to portray the scenes and the visuals in the best way they can do it at the time with the budgets they have. Now, that's how you want to look at it for yourself. The clearer you make your dream, the easier it also becomes if you need the help from other people to see what sort of skills from other people do I need in order to execute my dream. That is essentially what has happened to me on YouTube as well, because I needed help in order to build the videos that I'm creating currently, and I found the people with the skills that could do it, so that I can express bigger parts of my dreams. Otherwise I would have been only stuck with recording myself, for example, with no background music, with no additional visuals. All these little details that go into the production of my YouTube content is also based on the help from other people, and I figured out ways in order to do it. Now, that's the same for you. The more clear you make your dream, the easier it is to figure out which elements need to be in place, like pieces of the puzzle, and then you can start working on those pieces individually, and then slowly the bigger picture comes into view. Now, use the same technique for your own dream, whatever it is. Like an architect, go over that dream and see as much of the details as you can that you would be involved in if you were living your dream, if you were now in the realization of the manifestation of your dream. This is exactly what I'm doing for my own goals right now. I know exactly where I want to go, and I analyze for myself daily. This is my purpose, this is where I want to go, this is how I would like my life to be. And then I analyze through my imagination the sort of activities I would be involved in, and I start executing parts of those activities to the best of my ability, and I will always keep my mind open to improving on it whenever the inspiration comes to me for how I could improve on it. So I don't force the improvement, I just let the universe inspire me on how to go about my business while I hold on to that purpose inside my mind and heart. And that's exactly what can work for you. It can do absolute wonders if you start to experiment with this for yourself. Because then we're copying the technique of the architect. And as Emmet said, we build in thought the conditions that will later come into manifestation on the physical plane. This is an absolute law of life, a spiritual law that you can use in your favor. But it works according to how you're using your consciousness. And we're going to have to use it at will. Don't be scared of that. It's not a great, difficult thing to master. It actually happens quite easily if you simply dedicate your time to it. You simply exercise your imagination willingly and willfully, and you're going to discover all sorts of great ways to make your dream happen. And that is how you create a prophecy for yourself. And as he started this paragraph out by saying that some people believe that affirmations and meditations are foolish, that is because they don't understand the creative process that is set in motion. Once you know what you want, and once you create a blueprint, a plan of action through which you start acting on elements of that dream, well, then you're in a so-called creative process through which the imaginative state is being expressed on the physical side of your life. And then as you keep doing that, you discover more and more ways on how to go about realizing your dream as time ticks on. And at the same time, as you're doing this, you're also slowly but surely making people around you aware of what it is that your dream is all about, so that they can also start considering supporting you. And that's what happens all the time. That's how you get those customers or viewers online, or supporters, whatever you want to call them. It's because you are starting to express elements of your dream so people can become aware over time what it is all about. And at the same time, you're progressing towards it through your own actions, and more people can add to that dream that you've already built for yourself in your imagination that is now starting to manifest into form because you're working according to the blueprint of your own imagination. This is what you want to do if you want a prophecy for yourself. Now, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to receive inspirational videos on a regular basis. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.